What do you think the relationship between a school board and a superintendent should be?
I think the relationship between the superintendent and the school board needs to be, it does need to be a positive relationship. It also needs to be one of mutual respect, but I think it also has to be one of accountability. The school board are the leaders, they are the quote-unquote bosses of the district. They need to make sure that not only they hold themselves accountable, but they hold everybody in the district accountable for implementation, for actions, for things that we do, because like in any kind of a whether it's a business, a nonprofit, institution, doesn't matter, everybody needs to be accountable for what they do and for their actions. And when you go through and do that, everybody has to have the ownership in it. And if you don't, then the implementation and the actual operation suffers. And I think that needs to be there. That needs to be accountable, and it needs to have goals that have objectives. Now, we talk about SMART objectives, and I actually, when I was on the board, sat with the superintendent and went through how Ford does the SMART objectives, because we've had them for years. And you can put measurements even on the things that are softer skills. You can go through and say, what does success look like? When we're done, what do we want this to be? What do we want it to look like? And how are we going to measure ourselves on it? So when we start looking at those, when we make decisions, whether it's in private or whether it's on the school board, the district needs to go through and say, what does success look like? What does it do for the children? If it doesn't help education, if it doesn't go through and help improve the financial stability of the district, if it doesn't help that type of a activity, why are we going through and doing it? What do we need to do? Because again, it's all about the children and their education, and really putting down what matters for education, not just what we think is perceived will make education better, but really what will work. And when we go through and have to do the cuts and make the things we do, we have to keep that in the forefront that says, what do we need to go through? What's the best we can do for the children?
I would like to see our superintendent and our school board work closely together and at least publicly put up a unified front when it comes to especially things like legislation and equalization of funding among districts in the school. Ultimately, our superintendent and our school board are the face of the district. Our parents and our teachers and the other citizens are the ones whose input is the most important. But when it comes to going to Lansing and lobbying and going to the public and lobbying for support or for dollars or for millages or any kind of tax issues, the media and the public are always going to go to our board, our administrators, and our superintendent for their opinion. So if our superintendent and our board are constantly at odds, I believe it makes Huron Valley look like a disorganized, poorly managed district.
The relationship between a school board and a superintendent should first of all be collaborative, should be professional, should be open and honest, and ultimately the board needs to be able to hold administration accountable. And I think that is a really key, important role for the board. Thank you.
Two different things come to mind. First of all, there needs to be a set of checks and balances to make sure that we are stretching and setting goals that are appropriate and expecting the best out of everybody, expecting the best out of our administration, expecting the best out of our staff, and ultimately the best out of our students. However, it needs to be a collaborative environment where they can all work together, they can set goals, they can measure progress towards goals, and they have the ability to just work together as one team. Differences are good, but in the end they need to be able to come back together and work as one team. Again, I'm going to go back to the communication that I answered in the previous question. sitting in these board meetings, to me, it's screaming out that as people come up and give feedback for public comment, there needs to be some sort of a follow-up system for these parents. If somebody is up there talking about transportation and talking about an ongoing issue, as was at the last board meeting, where it's a 5-week-long transportation issue that has not been answered, then I feel that a board member needs to follow up by that point. We're not talking about the first contact with the school district or the second contact. So, a parent needs to be able to feel that they can get up and they can talk, and know that afterwards somebody is going to contact them and say, hey, we've met, we're taking action on it, we're going to get this resolved for you to the degree that we can. So communication absolutely has to be a major priority for the school district or the school board, and is a major priority for